Welcome to Tidbit Talkin. Have some ideas about a fictional thing, each one featuring different levels of seriousness. Spoilers, here we go. Some more assorted general series thoughts. Season 3 stuff. Officer, I want my mommy's comment of "you'll get him next time, Flash" might be a tad more than just friendly encouragement. That is, dude already knows Mr. West is growing at a more accelerated pace than he did, and thus he actually at least feels like what he said is some kind of reliable fact, akin to his precious forensic science. Mildly related, Joe's lack of surprise over suddenly awakening at work sort of indicates being dragged there by a superhero isn't something that's just now happening for the first time. Chances are Wally was doing this before the mysteriously empowered Barry showed up. Unfortunately, neat fact, no history's version of Mr. Ramone's best friend seems to have met his brother. Sir just reset everything. Looking around after new old Clara smacked him is almost definitely caused by him expecting to see Kid Flash come by to chase that other guy. Savitar, thinking the rival failed, could very well be because his original plan was to make Barry redo everything again, so he never existed in the first place. The time passage difference between extra-dimensional prisons and regular reality must result in him having lots of different schemes before settling on what's seen this season. HR knows exactly what to say in his response despite not solving the cryptogram himself because, as the most emotionally adjusted Wells, he recognizes what the counterpart authors like based on the wording of assorted thoughts a certain business partner best pal spewed out. Ironclad Mick Toasty-Face thaws so quickly because of the additional heat energy provided by Speed Force malarkey pulling him back in. Kinda connected, so-called fleet-footed god knows how to make people worship him because his regular non-corrupt past self had dealt with cold stuff before during day job crap. Mick is given food at meetings so he stays and listens instead of wandering off and stealing stuff. On that note, Mr. Rory being the only non-powered person not abducted could be because of a bit more than him being too far away or whatever. Specifically, as an actual pyromaniac, his brain could be too different from the norm to provide adequate data for the Dominators. Still related and involving both prior persona parts, but a different focal point. Those kooky kidnappers don't fabricate fake hairstyles for everyone in that perfect computer fantasy world because nobody in their species isn't bald. Barry is never made to hallucinate because his messed up possible later self suddenly remembering something so chaotic would be way too tricky to deal with. Somewhat related, Speed Force stuff becoming more visible to normals from around season 6 or so could very well be caused by Spectre power changing how it works. He's not saying the fake Wells here. What's actually being said is the fake Wells. Basically, it's just a small joke for himself centered around his "I am the future Flash" grammar trickery. That nifty disguise pen must have been used to record this hologram video deal. The Vision won't fully detect a new future because it's also relying on maybe Widower's memory, and what he recalls involves Jay yanking him out before that point with drop drumsticks getting reached. Gorilla City has access to trank darts that work on hyper-ultra-metabolic folks and metadappening tech because they figured out super countering stuff in advance, since who else would dare attack an army of genius beasts? Anyway, if somehow they didn't have such stuff before, chances are they figured it all out after scanning Harry's noggin. Grodd may not have been able to convince the others that humans are scary and dangerous if Barry never took out Solvar in one attack. There might have been some accidental flash time sharing going on here with how she dodged just about the same way as her future husband. Tracy likely invents tech in 2020 regardless of whether or not messed up alternate heroes stir stuff up because the Flash's first empowering event during original history hoopla left an imprint on the universe which forces such inspiration. Cisco's extra guilty at the funeral next episode because his early line about how HR is dependable and he shows up when they need him most was his way of telling the guy, do literally anything other than what our leader/foe would expect. Seeing as how that fellow is all quirky and whatnot, he'd have the best shot at being not predicted. His tech-loving friend likely wouldn't have made that strong yet subtle suggestion had it been known it'd lead to self-sacrifice stuff. This acclaimed author would always carry 2 appearance-changing doodads on him at all times so he could engage in the ultimate sexual roleplay experience. This reminder of what Mr. Cranky Clanky would remember if Barry found out things made her realize she needed to be where those two thought HR was based off the vibe. It takes a while for steely-shoed Sour to get updated recollection regarding his most pivotal moment because, as the repeat thing used to torture him in his prison, he's actively trying to avoid thinking about it most of the time. Season 4 stuff. Mystically refreshed Mr. Allen grew a beard but his hair didn't change. This suggests that rather than him not being able to keep up with self-care rituals as a result of being trapped, he was simply currently at a life loop part where facial fuzz was voluntarily grown. This isn't exhaustion-induced rapid breathing, but rather panic-produced panting. Impatient face Mick Sparty Pants almost definitely figured out more extreme capability-possessing individuals wouldn't get made from another accelerator explosion because he noticed Becky's field was already filled with dark matter. Thus, it either wouldn't occur or just did, so might as well take the gamble. Ralph's face fixes before the serum application and Caitlin's medical advice because his breathing reflex is already strong enough to make things right via his powers. Yeah, that would apply to his lungs and general torso area as well, but that would have ruined alliteration in the last sentence's first part. Vibe's uncertainty regarding whether he experienced birth or death is because what he actually physically psychically went through is both erasure and recreation from Crisis. When Cisco called Ralph Captain Obvious, he may have momentarily seriously been considering that as an option for the guy's codename. They had 2 pairs of metacuffs on hand just in case both Flash and his kid counterpart showed up before the stretchy man. Big Sur and Rundine looking sorta similar was a coincidence. What wasn't was the latter getting chosen to receive a bizarre bus blessing. That is, evil snobby brain specifically only wanted empowered folks that would wind up criminally charged easily, so they'd all be trapped together in prison, or at least be under house arrest, and thus unable to ever leave Central City. Rafe Palmer must have sent mega mini medical malarkey that let them test the tiny twosome's blood. Warden Wolf likely knocked Barry out by recreating what Prank used to safely poison Axel a few episodes earlier. Ralph's revelation regarding impersonating DeVoe must have came about after he started thinking, it'd be easier to copy someone if I didn't have to stand for so long and wear myself out even more. It took Marlee so long to realize her husband was tampering with those drinks because of how much she was focused on mentally blocking him with that head-contained singing. Beck's body's bittiness wasn't the only reason it didn't last long as a vessel. Her abilities must have also given the other Preserve Personas bad luck. This would have also helped the Brainy Boss's final defeat, of course. Season 5 stuff. Mr. Ramon felt like Speed Force seeking tests were necessary even though its presence should be obvious because he thought purple being at least half made up of blue meant that lightning could have came about from a velocity formula. Considering how little this possible future mother and daughter seemed to spend time having fun chats, chances are Thawne might have told Nora what Dad's favorite ice cream flavor was, not Iris. Dibbs mentioned there was a universe where that last Indiana Jones movie was never made. Earth X probably never had any of those films developed. Will Be a Mama later literally didn't see the Humpy toss coming. The hologram never glances up, and after it landed, various interior things would have obstructed her vision. Eobard's actual biggest worry in the lead-up to particle accelerator activation must have been a certain prodigious Rathaway youth sneaking into Star Labs and fixing everything. This long time she was gone could have very well been just a few seconds. Speedster perception coupled with impending doom and all that. These extra murky mommy memories must have been the result of a certain nefarious mentor having already begun prepping for negativity usage. Before the time-traveling Little Runner's interference, grave-digging gorilla and Fancy Fiercefin's fantastic fight must have occurred on some random day when Lila asked for Team Flash backup because Mr. Lambden suddenly started acting funky, which would have been right around the time this Cure Question crap happened in latest history malarkey. If Cicada 2 actually went back to the earlier past and set things up when there were no heroic speedsters around, one of many era-hopping Thawns would have just offed her then. Thus, this particular one's plan would have always resulted in him escaping. Ralph most likely thought that comment about his death being what should have happened meant a mirror gun blast is a typically fatal thing. Season 6 stuff. Barry's eagerness to get that mental augmentation chamber finished almost definitely stems from him hoping he can figure out how Nora's message could be repaired. Chester's black wormholes are relatively weak because the dude truly doesn't want to hurt anybody. If anything, they're just trying to gather junk like he did in his free time. It's a whole subconscious giving the new powers a test drive before the awake self figures them out years later kind of deal. Folks don't just travel throughout the multiverse until cures for everything are found because minute physiological differences like father-daughter combos with real-world non-existent blood types make such actions more than a bit unpractical. The tracking bug Nash put on Cisco must have been lodged up said guy's nose during that first smoke bomb teleport thingy. That recently brought up Mac device is durable enough to handle both bloody behemoths and literal astronomical events because Miss Ramon had to prepare for the possibility of his swift BFF accidentally causing a Speed Force storm inside by thinking too hard or whatever. Ramsey couldn't notice Barry's hidden plan constituting thoughts because he was too busy trying to process those billions of possible futures the latter fellow saw while mentally glimpsing crisis outcomes. Mirror Iris went out of her way to perfect cooking because if she didn't go that far, things would wind up way too bad flavor-wise since beings like her can't taste anything at all. Basically, it'd be even more suspicious than what's going on, but perhaps with vomiting on top of weird emotional responses. Also, she has time to build up skills like this because these sort of copies don't need to sleep. Related, Duplo Wife is rather confrontational at first because she's mostly being directly piloted by Eva, so accurate intel about world changes since that accelerator caused imprisonment can be gathered. Frost is weirded out by Runk's intentional playful echoing because she used to naturally automatically do that via unavoidable meta voice crap, and memories about it making folks uncomfortable rendered her unable to comprehend people having fun with such a thing. Mind Solivar can stop Barry rather easily because Grodd has mentally gone over their real battle several times trying to figure out how the former's flash-flattening fighting form could be adopted by himself. First, Fantastic Fleet Footer falls over and experiences other ability glitch whatnot more than his protege because he's left over from the previous multiverse. Heroic speedsters don't typically just phase through everything to reach a destination with optimal efficiency because they usually stop and help extra citizens along the way. Also, there's more paper and stuff flying around now because they have less of that wonderfully physics-defying protective aura going on. Ragdolls seem to reflect those bullets back in a way that made them even faster than when they first got fired. Sucks for Joe. Carver would have just used that EMP when Detective West left his house instead of right then if the latter didn't brag about recording him. He just felt like telling the guy about it now because much like fire, smugness can occasionally be fought with itself. The addition of subspaces such as that Mirrorverse following a certain reality-shaping event might be why those extrapolator deals and other breach options no longer function as they once did. Everybody showing so much touchy-feely what have you when seeing now nice cold gal off summons the psychic spirit of that super emotional Wells, HR. This causes depressed discount Indiana Jones to take on the mannerism/habits of that individual for a bit, such as repeating questions and excessive coffee drinking. Barry's notably slower than Mirror Monarch right now because artificial speed doesn't get correctly comprehended by his Spectre-enabled true strength unlocking thingy. Freaky Idea Maker doesn't just think of grabbing more Ramsey vein juice because he can't imagine a scenario where enemy escape shenanigans don't occur. Timeless over here already knew about Crisis. The guy was just trying to help Barry reach a state where it's easier for not-assisted plan-making to come about, so he could leave and repeat lives with his wife, all guilt-free. The CSI lab door is designed to take greater impacts from inside rather than outside, just in case there's some sort of experiment malfunction or lightning somehow strikes again. Season 7 stuff. Frost TV doesn't go retro, only the signal's source does, and it happens to be a program about imagining what future stuff will be like. This comic book show's current shell counts as that kind of deal. Only the Jetsons' entertainment might is powerful enough to overthrow a rookie still force and bring an environmental pun into being. Both X-Vibe and Dr. Always at every point get a bit more emotional when around these rather sensitive godly entities because omniscience crap reflexively causes micro-vibing and moment-warping urges simultaneously for them. This static resembling black and white lightning might be caused by the negative speed force attempting to drain all that endless emptiness its positive counterpart once dwelt in. Everything does sort of look like the angry free super sparks that came off of Mina when she first connected with it. Speaking of some of that, everyone fights in the NSF because Avatar Nora is currently pissed enough to start wielding some herself. Her shirt wound up inside out when they got caught because he dressed them both in literally an instant once Chester walked up. Jay got reinvigorated when the power source rebirth happened because this current speed force got reignited by somebody who's really good at sharing energy junk. Season 8 stuff. Temporarily positive, the unlikely got extra stunned by that zero velocity gun because it allowed currently technically bad Barry to drain even more juice for just a moment. Unless things are recorded in that time language, Gideon probably can only grasp historical changes while they're happening. Thus, her creator didn't know what got screwed up by not him because he didn't bother to check. Anyway, things usually don't get jotted down with said safeguarding wording because nobody wants to deal with the chaos that would come about if everybody knew of its existence. Just Eobard being able to abuse things with note-taking is bad enough on its own. It's likely the Royal Flush Gang is so fatality-eager at first because they're extra frustrated after spending all night being talked into going with a playing card theme by Queen. In addition to crisis crap and the general vastness of a universe's entirety, Deathstorm might have taken so long to show up because Iris's chrono illness messed up space-time just a tad. Dark negative electricity could very well be caused by the pissy essence fading quite quickly due to a lack of acceptance. Related, Dr. Darwin doesn't truly connect with her power source until she enters the block, totally pissed. Eobard's prone to accepting the negative speed force because he's just a naturally jealous individual. Thawne probably wanted that Green Lantern ring so it could be used to find one of a color better suited for him. Like yellow, red, or even purple that'd be fueled by his violent fanboy side. At which point he'd use that one's power to enter the NSF and reclaim his original and most favorite ability set. Endings are a pain, but all of you are fantastic. See ya.